What's up all you hardcore bashers out there? Today we've got a couple of Savage drivetrain maintenance tips that are perfect for you guys. So what we've got here is a Savage X 4.6 and a Savage Flux 2350. They have the same drivetrain, just slightly different in the spur gears. But what we're going to do is show you how to get to the spur gear first on the Savage Nitro, and then we'll show you real quick how to do it on the Savage Flux. So we're going to set the Savage Flux aside and get to work on the Nitro. Okay, so the first thing to do is to just get a normal number 2 screwdriver. So the first thing to take off is the screw just holding the front of the tune pipe on. And set that aside. And then we're going to take off the air filter. And again, just set that aside so it's out of the way. And then we're going to take off the screws holding the handle on. There's 4 screws. So getting the pipe out of the way lets us get to the screws on the right side. Much easier. There's 3 long ones and 1 short one. It's very easy to remember which side or which one is the short one, because it's this one here, the forward screw on the side with the fuel tank. So that one's pretty easy to get out. And then the final screw holding on the handle. And then with the handle out of the way, we're able to get to the 3 screws that hold the top of the transmission casing on. That makes it much easier to get to the spur gear than on the older Savage design. You set your handle aside, and then on the top of the transmission you have 3 screws holding it on. So these 3 screws are the last screws that you need to get at before you can get to your spur gear. So again, just these are button head screws, so they're easy to tell apart from the handle screws, which are flat head. So now that we've got the 3 screws out, you can lift off your transmission and there's your spur gear. Very simple. Got all your gears inside. And don't lose those screws, and especially don't drop them inside the transmission. So what you're going to need to get this wrench off is a 7mm hex wrench. You can use a normal HPI wheel wrench, or this is just a standard hex wrench that you can get from your model shop. And just hold it really firm and just give it a good crank to the left. And then as you get the nut off, just hold it straight up, because this spring is loose. So we just set the nut aside. There's your spring. You've got a black washer here, which is loose, so make sure you don't lose that. And then on the reverse side, stuck just ever so slightly to the slipper pad, is this shiny slipper plate. That keys into that piece right there, so just set those aside. Now when you get a new spur gear, you'll get this slipper pad on a separate wax piece of paper, and then you peel off the backing paper and you'll carefully place it so that it's in this cross molding inside the spur gear. So that's your slipper pad. And then for reinstalling everything, you're going to get your transmission top half again, and then your slipper plate. Make sure that these holes are keyed together. Make sure the shiny side is out. There's a slightly dull side, and then sort of a rounded, a little bit shinier side there. And then against that, and hold this up straight because all this other stuff is loose. So there goes your spur gear. and then there's a hexagonal shape sticking out of there, and that's what the washer sits on. And then your spring, and then just put the lock nut on finger tight, and then once again just hold this firmly in your hands, get your wrench and tighten it all the way down as far as it'll go. So once that's tightened all the way down, you're going to want to back it out 1/2 of a turn. So just there you go. So that should be properly set, and just make sure it spins freely. And then when you're ready to pop it back in, just move the rod out of the way. Just make sure it seats in okay. Now while you're doing this, it's a good idea to check the gear mesh between your spur and your clutch bell. Especially if you run your truck quite a lot, get a piece of paper, as just a small strip of paper, and stick it between the gears. And just thread this in between the two gears, and then just make sure that you can't easily pull it out, and that there's no movement between the gears. If there is a little bit of movement, just loosen the motor mount screws underneath the engine, and then tighten up your engine screws from the bottom with the 3mm hex wrench. Then just tighten it up, and then that should give you the perfect gear mesh. That works for on-road, off-road, big gears like this, or smaller racing gears. So now, assembly is easy, just a reverse process. Just make sure you put on the top of the transmission on first, again with the button head screws. And then we get the handle, and we're going to just fit that in place. Make sure it's seated, and then we'll start with the small screw first. And remember, that goes in the forward hole on the same side as the fuel tank. And then just the rest of the screws in the remaining holes. And the final two holding the handle on. So almost done. This is the last screw to hold in the handle. The last screw is the one holding on the tune pipe. And then finally, the air filter, which if you run your truck a lot, just use a fresh zip tie on that. But otherwise, just pop it on, make sure nothing gets in there. And there you go, all done. That's your spur gear changed. Now for the Savage Flux, it's just a little bit different. On the Savage Flux trucks, you have a protective spur gear guard, and all that takes is one screw to remove. Pop that off and wiggle it out, and so everything's pretty much the same. The main difference is that it has a metal spur gear. Now, if you notice that your truck is slipping quite a bit on acceleration, all you have to do is take it off, as we showed you before, and put a new slipper pad on there, and replace everything just like we just showed you, and you're all set. Putting this back is very simple. And that's how you fix the spur gear on the Savage Flux.